Jan Hus was a little-known priest from Bohemia, small kingdom, by the way. Just kidding. Done with the Alex Jones bit. But let's get into the actual video. Martin Luther was not the first reformer. It was actually the first reformer was a priest named Jan Hus. Well, actually, he was inspired from another reformer. Jan Hus matters more because he started a cool war. And Jan Hus was from the small kingdom of Bohemia, who, spoiler alert, got burned at the stake by the Catholic Church. Now, you're probably wondering what evil things he did that qualified him for death. Well, they weren't, but the Roman Catholic Church at that time proclaimed Jan Hus a heretic for preaching against corruption in the church. And so they killed him for that. And so his death directly caused the Hussite Revolution, which then made popular one of my favorite generals of all time, Jan Žižka, who kind of invented the tank. So we got two Jans now, but before we discuss the second one, let's go over the life of Jan Hus and how all this led to Žižka and then to Luther and then so on and so on. So ladies and gentlemen, get ready because we got a video ahead of us today. Jan Hus was born in 1370 in Husinec, Bohemia. The combination of the letters H-U-S in that order will come up a lot in this video. He was born to poor parents and took his surname from the town. Around 1390, he began his academic career at the University of Prague as a student. He graduated with a master's degree in 1394, and guess what? He became a teacher. Jan Hus would study John Wycliffe's works of church reform for the Roman Catholic Church. Wycliffe had a lot of ideas about reforming the clergy, which Hus liked. And because one of the problems leading up to this revolution was the Bohemian peasantry resented the rich clergy, and yes, you heard that right, rich clergy, as they were some of the heaviest land taxers, which is kind of funny because Catholics all the time harp on Protestants. Oh, y'all got mega churches and prosperity gospel churches. It was like, look at your own history, guys. I mean, so... And also, that's like 1% of Protestant churches, by the way. And so with that being stated, there was already a large number of people who would support church reform if it came down to it. Subtle foreshadowing right there, which it is quite ironic that the church would be the highest land taxers when they already receive a 10% tithe from each congregant and indulgences. We'll speak on those later. And I'm guessing the Roman Catholic Church at that point, at time, must have conveniently forgot about 1 Timothy 6:10. For the love of money is the root of all evil, while some coveted after they have erred from the faith and pierced themselves through with many sorrow. Malachi 3:10. Bring the whole tithe into the storehouse, that there may be food in my house. Test me in this, says the Lord Almighty, and see if I will not throw open the floodgates of heaven and pour out so much blessing that there will not be enough room to store it. This verse highlights the command to bring the full tithe and the blessings that come from obedience. Proverbs 3:9-10. Honor the Lord with your wealth, with the first fruits of all your crops. Then your barns will be filled to overflowing, and your vats will brim over with new wine. This verse encourages believers to prioritize God in their finances by giving the first portion of their earnings. Leviticus 27:30. A tithe of everything from the land, whether grain from the soil or fruit from the trees, belongs to the Lord. It is holy to the Lord. This establishes the principles of tithing as a commandment in the Old Testament. Deuteronomy 14:22. Be sure to set aside a tenth of all that your fields produce each year. But I can imagine that perhaps these clergymen who were stealing from the poor and giving it to themselves to make them rich, basically a reverse Robin Hood if he was a priest, hadn't heard about the verse that states, Matthew 23:23. Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You give a tenth of your spices, mint, dill, and cumin, but you have neglected the more important matters of the law, justice, mercy, and faithfulness. You should have practiced the latter without neglecting the former. I am saying that indulgences were a heresy and evil, and the fact that the church was also the highest land taxer is a little more than sketchy. Because of this, there was a large fan base for reform in the Roman Catholic Church. Now, Jan wasn't the one who attempted to reform. King Charles IV of Bohemia attempted to do this very thing using the writings of Mr. John Milich of Cromeres. I think I said that right. Oh my lord, all these Jans are really starting to confuse me. So later on in 1402, to be precise, Jan Hus was placed in charge of the one and only Bethlehem Chapel in the city of Prague. He continued to teach at the Prague University, though, and also became eligible to receive his doctrine in theology. On top of that, he became an advisor to a young noble in Habsburg whose name is Zbigniew. I think I said that right. So later on, the noble he was advising, Zbigniew, became a bishop and later on he would become an archbishop, but right now he's a bishop and a part of the Reform Party in Bohemia. So Hus already had a foot in that door on that side. But Zibnek is a confusing character in this story. This is all set with the backdrop being the Western Schism, where since 1378 there have been two men who have both declared themselves the Pope and now divided the See of Peter. Hus did, however, quarrel with his former nobleman, who he advised, who was now Archbishop Zibnek, who wanted the rival popes to be dethroned, the church reformed, and now King Wenceslas got mad at everyone. He was king after King Charles, and for disagreeing, and had them do a vote, and the end result was a bunch of Germans leaving Prague. Yeah. I hope this is a good time to say this, by the way. Y'all need to play Kingdom Come Deliverance and Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. It is literally in this period and time, set place. Y'all need to play it. They're both masterpieces. And back to the story. Then Hus got elected in 1409 as the rector of the Prague University. Oh, and guess what, guys? We got 3 popes now. So we already had 2. Now we got a 3rd one because the boys in charge decided to elect a new one. And let the others keep jurisdiction. Great. So now we got 3 popes, 1 papacy, and Jan Hus and his Reform Party and most of Bohemia, for that matter, supported Pope Gregory instead of the newly elected Pope Alexander. Now, the king, Wenceslas, bribed Zibnek, Jan Hus's former boss, to recognize Pope Alexander and got him to ban preaching in private chapels. Now, Hus was quite fond of preaching in private chapels, so he said no to the Pope, and that snake, Zibnek, and I don't like this dude now, excommunicated Hus for preaching in chapels. But Hus is just that dude, and he said, I'm just going to keep preaching on chapels, man, and did that. And he did it in his university, too, so that's a plus. And then the king strong-armed Zibnek and made him promise Hus he would support him, but he suddenly died. That's very interesting. Just want to leave that up. There's got to be some conspiracy theories about that. Now, quite a bit of indulgences were being sold in Bohemia to fund one of the deposed Pope's campaigns, and Hus did not like that. And Pope Alexander did not like that Hus was against indulgences. But the proceeds also went to the King Wenceslas and Pope Alexander, and so they approved of them. That's so greedy because Hus spoke out against them. He lost the support of his king Wenceslas. They then tried to hold a trial about Hus and his many so-called heresies, but he just didn't show up. So they major excommunicated him, which I don't even know what a major excommunication is, other than it's just Then King Sigismund, there's a new king in town, by the way. There's 3 kings. I know it's a lot. It's a lot of story. We'll talk about that in the next video. And the Roman Catholic Church decided to end what they thought were heresies, and they decided Jan Hus was the biggest loser of that night's episode of Impractical Jokers, and they decided to pull a pretty big prank on him. They told him if he came to his trial, he would be unharmed. And at the end, with the prank of the day was when Jan Hus arrived at the trial, they locked him up and burned him at the stake. So, yeah, they went back on their word on that one. Jan Hus made a lasting impact with himself, and his death being one of the catalysts for what would become the Hussite Rebellion and start a new Protestant church, the Moravian Church. But don't worry, guys. Jan Žižka is one of my favorite generals, so that will be the next video in the Christian history series. I can't wait to talk about that. Please follow for more. Follow me here. Follow me on Instagram. I'll see you guys later.